Hello, folks. I'm Bob Rittenauer, your Yarmouth Town Administrator. Now that the cranberry harvest is safely in the barn, we at Town Hall here start to think tremendously about our fall town meeting schedule. And as it so happens, we have an upcoming fall town meeting that we're scheduling for November 7, 2003. And that's going to be at 6 p.m. Now, the most important thing about this town meeting, we have a new facility with our brand new intermediate middle school located at 286 Station Ave, having been completed with a beautiful auditorium, and the Madikey School having closed down. The November 7, 2023 fall special town meeting will be held at the new intermediate middle school, 286 Station Avenue in South Yarmouth. So we hope folks get to see this new facility. I know a lot of you folks have already, but please, although we'll have a million signs up, don't go to the Madikey School, go to the new facility. So what we usually do at this point, for the sake of helping folks understand better their local government, is I'd like to take a few moments with you to run down, if we have this November 7 special town meeting, what the articles are. As you know, we limit our business to just those series of articles that we publish, and it's been posted and it's up on the town's website, yarmouth.ma.us. There's a special banner right on the front of the website. If you click that, it'll take you right to the town meeting warrant that we'll be going through today, that has all of the information that you need for the special town meeting that we're going to be holding. So we have a series of 20 articles that we'll be voting on at that meeting, and what we'll be doing is running right through those. So I'll give you a quick sense of the type of projects, issues that we're going to be talking about. First and foremost, Article 1 is a cleanup article from the previous fiscal year. It's called the Prior Year Bill article, which your town administrator doesn't have as his favorite article. We hope to get every one of the bills taken care of and paid for during the year that the services were rendered. And sometimes these bills come in late, and there are a couple of late bills that we have that have been filed from the fire department from the previous fiscal year, and they require a special town meeting vote to approve. So I've looked them over, and the services were lawfully rendered. So I hope folks can vote yes on the prior year bills on Article 1, and that is a 9/10 majority vote. So be looking out for Article 1. And once we get through Article 1, we're going to jump right into some of the expenses that we have in the current fiscal year. And that brings us to Article 2, which is an article that would fund the maintenance costs for the closed Madikey's Middle School. Again, it's a 150,000 square foot building that has been turned over from the school department when the new intermediate school opened up. So we need to put aside the funds that are required to maintain that facility while our Madikey Study Committee moves through the process to determine the next most beneficial use of that facility for the town. But what we want to avoid is having the building deteriorate, having the systems not maintained and taken care of, and this will help enhance the value of that building while we determine the next steps for the building. So that's Article 2, and following that we have Article 3, which is an appropriation of approximately $10,000 to our Substance Abuse Prevention Committee. And these are funds that have been received by the town as a result of the settlements in the opioid cases that the manufacturers in the class action lawsuits have devoted to the local governments to help battle substance abuse. And we use these funds through our Substance Abuse Committee for specific programs to attack substance abuse in our community. Very important article. Hope you support Article 3, which is titled Opioid Settlement. And as you can see, we move right through these articles at a breakneck speed. Hopefully, these will be items that you'll be familiar with by the time you get to town meeting. But any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Mr. Moderator, I have a question, and we love to answer questions at town meeting and for the benefit of the whole citizenry that is there. After a couple of those housekeeping articles, we're going to move into some of the capital expenses. Now, these are small capital items. The major capital budget comes through at the annual town meeting in the spring, but some of the key departments have items that really couldn't wait because of one reason or another. So we've moved those out of the annual capital and put them in on the fall so we can jumpstart these projects and move them forward. Article 4 is the fire department capital expense. And what they hope to do is replace a 2004 Ford Expedition. This is their shift commander vehicle, allowing the shift commander to have rapid access to the sites when we have, on-scene events that need to be attended to. And that vehicle requires replacement. It really can't wait. So that is an important item. The total cost is $80,000, and that's all we're doing in fire capital this fall for Article 4. Article 5 moves into the police department capital. And again, these are only the items that couldn't wait till the normal spring one. And in this case, we're going to see the police department update their fire alarm system in the police department. And that's an expenditure of $23,000, and that'll make sure we have an adequate fire alarm system for the police station. Wouldn't it be ironic if we had a fire in the police station? That's almost like having a robbery in the fire station, but maybe even a little worse. And that is Article 5, Police Capital. Following that, next on the totem pole comes the Natural Resources Department, our DNR. They have capital as well, and there is a replacement of a truck that needed to be moved forward before the spring, and that is to replace a 2013 Ford Explorer. And it's a work truck for the DNR that they put a lot of their gear and transport it in. So Article 6 is for the DNR capital. From there, we move into the elections capital, where there's an amount of $15,000 that we're hoping to spend on a new elections printer, which interestingly enough is there to help us take a lot of the manpower and work out of the ballot system for the mail-in ballots, where we have a special printer now that will be able to put the voter's actual name and address from the ballot right on the envelope that goes out. And it eliminates potential error, saves hundreds of man hours, and this will be a good technology improvement for our elections division. And that's Article 7, which is the elections capital. From there, we're going to go out to the Bayberry Hills Golf Course and talk about Article 8 with our golf team, which is a bond issue to make some improvements at the links course over at Bayberry Hills.
Hi, my name is Scott Gilmore, and I am the Director of Golf for the Town of Yarmouth. And I'm here to discuss Article 8, which is a $3 million article for the improvements to the Bayberry Hills links course, where we're going to do drainage, irrigation, some tee work, and bunker work to help fix the golf course. This article is funded entirely by the Golf Enterprise budget, in which no taxpayer funding will be needed for the article.
Hi, my name is Dennis Hoy. I'm the head golf professional for Yarmouth Golf. One of the things we wanted to take an opportunity to show you today was some of the areas on our golf course that suffer a lot of damage, and one of the main reasons we're trying to look at renovating this golf course. First of all, we want to talk about some of the areas where drainage is a huge issue for us. One of the areas that you'll take a look at over here on one of our holes is an area where we tend to have a lot of water collect. It does not have the ability to drain very well. So what happens is, one is from a player, you can't hit out of it, number one. Number two, when we have equipment come out here, golf carts that for people to play and even trying to mow it, the damage that happens so substantial that it causes constant issues, and it's very hard to keep that portion maintained properly. All right, just to show you a little example here is in a particular place where we get all this area that gets soaking wet is one of the areas that happens. A ball gets into the area, it's muddy, and it becomes almost unplayable. And this is a constant thing. We have a lot of people that play the golf course run into these areas, and it's something that we're trying to get over so we don't have this going on in the future. So the whole golf course becomes playable and much more easier to maintain. Just as an example to show you here, if a ball lands in this area here, it's 1, soaking wet. 2, we've got grass that's grown here because they couldn't even mow it because the mowers in here would cause such damage, which they have. And if you look over this area here, you'll see some of the damage that happens from just equipment and carts that go through here. So what happens too, if we get a player out here, they still try to hit shots out of this stuff. And it doesn't matter what level player you are, when you get into an area like this, it's so difficult. So I'm just going to show you here quickly. If you try to hit out of this type of stuff, what happens is can't get the ball out. It digs up, causes a ton of damage. And what happens is that this is something we're trying to get away from. And another place we wanted to show you in the golf course is, this is a different location, but this is an actual fairway area on our golf course that is not able to drain, gets a lot of abuse as you go through. If you take a look through here, number one, if you watch when I step down here, you see how much this is muddy and your foot sinks in here. And if you look around, see all these brown patches, that's where the mower actually scalped this area because it's so wet that everything sinks down into it and causes a lot of damage constantly, and it's almost unplayable here even too, because trying to hit a shot out of this type of condition is really not favorable for anybody. Okay, another place we wanted to take a look at, all the bunkers on our golf course are getting into disrepair. Over the past 20 years, what happened is when they originally built these bunkers, you see this area with the black coming up out of the sand. Those were liners that were put in originally to help keep the bottom of the bunker safe, and what it does is it stops rocks from coming up from underneath to get into the bunker, which can cause damage during play. But over time, what's happened is all these liners are now starting to come to the top, and now it becomes a situation where it's almost, again, an unplayable situation, and it's actually dangerous for people to try to hit out of it because they're going to be striking into these liners. So with the renovation project, this problem will be taken care of, and then the bunkers are going to be put in much better condition going forward to make it work out better.
One of the other major parts of the project is the irrigation that's going to be done throughout the golf course. We're going to have brand new irrigation throughout the whole 9 holes. One of the big things is right now the irrigation goes into all the fescue areas, as you can see by all the weeds. The new irrigation system, all the heads will be facing into the golf course, and no water will go back into the fescue areas. And over time, this will all go away due to no water be coming in these areas. This is another big part to improve the conditions over here and help golfers have a great time over here. Okay, so the last part of the project is the 4th hole. I'm standing on the 4th tee, and this is one of the poorly designed holes out here that we're going to renovate. We're going to take the left side down and bring up the right side quite a bit so that you can, when you hit a straight shot on this hole, it will actually be in the fairway now instead of what happens now where a straight ball goes into across the fescue and into the landfill. This will help speed up play and have a better all-around experience for you, as your second shot will now be able to be in play and go to the green.
And our next article is Article 9, which is to do some design work up on the construction and demolition area of the town's transfer station. And as you may recall, we put aside some funds at the last town meeting to replace the concrete pad out there and just do some upgrades to that area of the sanitation department that really takes in quite a lot of fees with their demolition debris and the construction debris that they take in there. And we required additional funding for the environmental permitting and the engineering design for that project. And the total amount of this article is $138,400. And the funds will come from the fees that we take in for these materials, so there will be no tax impact on it. But this way, the sanitation division upgrades its facilities and is able to process this material, which in turn takes in revenue and helps offset the cost of all of our solid waste disposal here in town. So that's a very useful article, number 9. And Article 10 is simply a transfer article from some previous capital budget items that were appropriated to the DY Regional School District, and they are for making repairs to the school roof at the Marguerite Small Elementary School. And as many folks have heard, that building continues to deteriorate in condition, and it is on the state's list and slowly moving its way up for a state subsidy to replace that school. But in the meantime, it's been determined that the number one priority up there for the operation of that facility is to repair the roof. They've been experiencing some leaks, and this article has a total of $90,000 transferred from some previous school department related capital items that were unspent, focuses on the highest priority item, which is the roof repairs at the Marguerite Small School, and we'll take care of that under Article 10, which moves us directly into Article 11. We were all delighted at the annual town meeting in 2023 to approve funds for the new Riverwalk Park. And what Article 11 does is it grants Eversource an easement for the location of their utilities, which are part of this project. Moving electrical service into that site requires an easement that we grant to Eversource so they can maintain the facilities to provide that power. And it's very interesting. Anytime an easement is granted, which an easement is an interest in the property over that small, narrow conduit, that is something that is controlled by town meeting. So if we want to have power at the Riverwalk Park site, you need town meeting to approve an easement. And that is Article 11. From there, we move in again with Riverwalk Park, and as a result of the highly successful planning stages and the funding of that project, my hat is off and kudos go to the Community Development Department and our town planning staff who have received a grant for $487,000 in order to help complete that project. Now, in order to be able to receive the grant, the town needs to take a vote under Article 12, which will establish that grant as a reimbursement for some of the funds that were appropriated at the annual town meeting from April 25, 2023. So great news on Article 12. It is there to enable the town to receive almost $500,000 in grant funding, and it is as a result of the town's support of this facility back in April. So that is Article 12. Article 13 moves into a recurring article that we've seen every year for the past 4 years, I believe, and it is a pre-funding program for wastewater. And in this case, we are transferring $1,233,000 from free cash, septage host fees, septage betterment payments, all to go into the Wastewater Enterprise Fund as a means to pre-fund that project. And what the financial plan is, once again, is we hope to have saved up in the $12 million range by the time this project starts the debt service payments. And what that funding will do is it will help offset some of the debt service payments over the first 10 years of the project and minimize the impact on other local finances. So this is part of the financing plan that we've been working on, and I'm happy to say that we are right on schedule for all of the financing and implementation of the wastewater program. Article 13, an important step to continue that pre-funding. From there, we move into Article 14, which is an appropriation of approximately $1 million to the OPEB account. Now, OPEB is one of those famous acronyms we like to use here in local government to actually hide what we're doing. And in all seriousness, OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. And this is a new accounting, not new, but in the last 5 to 7 years, the accounting standards have adopted this other post-employment benefits as an unfunded liability that towns are required to calculate. And in order to calculate that, we have to perform an actuarial analysis that has a full consulting team that determines what are the costs to the town of the future health insurance for retirees that aren't retired yet. And it is determined that the town of Yarmouth has approximately a $17 million unfunded liability that we need to account for on the town's balance sheet. And there's a minimum annual requirement that we're requested to raise each year to go toward that unfunded liability. And it is a real plus, number one, to safeguard the future finances of the town, to recognize these liabilities that will occur in the future and save up for them, but also very important, in the appraisal of our municipal credit risk, which outside agencies do, and determines the amount of money we have to pay in interest for our bonds. Having the other post-employment benefit program fully funded helps the town get a better bond rating, and it is a signal of a positive financial step for the community and financial health. So a little more explanation than some people get into, but whenever I hear anyone throw around terms like OPEB and other unexplained phenomenon, I like to break it right down so people understand exactly what we're doing. OPEB is health insurance costs for future employees. That's Article 14. Now, Article 15 and Article 16 are really some very interesting articles. They go hand in hand together. And it was suggested that the Board of Selectmen's name be changed to a more gender-neutral term of Select Board. This is similar to what's been going on in communities around the Commonwealth, that the term selectman really goes back to the Constitution. It's kind of an archaic term that means our town councilors, the chief elected board of the community, and we love the selectmen, and it's a venerable institution. And in these modern times, the move is to, instead of referring to them as select men, we have select women, to refer to the Board of Selectmen as the Select Board. And that is the sum total of that change, is it removes the gender identity with the position. And we're very happily have members of the Select Board, selectmen of every gender, and that is the sign of our times. And so Article 15 makes that change for the town's general bylaws, which is, interestingly enough, a majority vote at town meeting. Now we need a separate article, Article 16, which makes that same change in the town's zoning bylaws. And you need to have a different vote for the zoning because it comes under a separate statute for the authorization of the town to have zoning. And zoning bylaws require a 2/3 vote to amend. So that's why there's Article 15 and Article 16. Both accomplish the same purpose. Article 15 for the general bylaws and Article 16 for the zoning bylaws. And with that, we march into Article 17, which is another interesting change that comes with the times. It's a little bit of a modernization of the manner in which the town provides notice of the town meetings to the public. And what Article 17 does is it replaces the requirement that the town publish the actual full wording of the annual and special town meeting warrant in the newspaper, with the requirement that the town place the notice of availability of the town meeting warrant in a local newspaper, and then publishes the actual wording on the town's website where people can get much clearer access to it. We've had a difficult situation in town where after losing our local newspaper, the Yarmouth Register, we're forced to publish the annual town meeting warrant, the special town meeting warrant in the daily paper, the Cape Cod Times. The cost went up maybe 4 times. It's over $10,000 to publish it. And if anyone has ever seen that issue of the Cape Cod Times that includes the entire town meeting warrant word for word, you can't even read it. The print is so small, you need to look at it with a magnifying glass, and then you get the black ink all over your hands. And the modern way of viewing the town meeting warrants, we have the town's website. It is published there as soon as it's available. In addition to that, the town actually makes a publication where we print individual copies of the town meeting warrant to provide every single town meeting member with their own hard copy. In between the electronic copies with the town's website and the copies that we print out, the feeling, and this has been studied for the last few years now, is essentially it's kind of a waste of taxpayers' money to take that extra step and publish it in a non-usable way in the local newspaper. And the feeling is publishing that notice to all residents in a display ad, clearly visible. The town meeting warrant is ready. Come look at it. That's the best way to accomplish that. And Article 17 makes that change. Article 18 is a long-awaited update of the town's wetlands bylaw. And that is a fairly long article. It contains a lot of various individual components that we've put on the town's website. A great deal of detail and some maps that will describe those changes, the need for those changes. And it's an update that we've been working on for quite some time. And we'll also have a presentation at town meeting to go into the details of the wetlands bylaw. And we're looking forward to that discussion. And from the wetlands, we're going to move into the zoning amendments. And we have a fabulous new bylaw on accessory apartments that the planning board and the town planning staff has worked on for the past year. And for a rundown of some of the details of that accessory apartment bylaw, I'd like to turn it over to our town planner, Kathy Williams.
I'm Town Planner Kathy Williams, and I'm going to be going over Article 19, which is the zoning amendments for accessory apartments. You may know accessory apartments as accessory dwelling units or ADUs. Sometimes they're called in-law apartments. We have a current bylaw that does allow for accessory apartments, but it's limited right now to family members and affordable units, or capital A affordable. That means that there are limits on the maximum amount of rents that can be charged, and there are also income eligibility requirements for the tenants. We have had some success with this bylaw. We have about 52 family-related units and 3 affordable units on the books right now. However, with our current housing crunch and the limited amount of rental units that we have available in town, we kind of started looking at, are there ways that we could possibly amend the accessory apartment bylaw to create more year-round rental units for our workforce, to keep our Cape Cod residents here on Cape Cod, and also to maybe provide some type of caretaker location for people so that they can stay in their current homes over time, all while trying to ensure that we're maintaining the character and looks of our residential neighborhoods. So the Planning Board has spent the last 12 months getting public input through various public meetings, listening sessions, all trying to build some type of compromise and consensus on these amendments that are being presented at Fall Town Meeting. The amendments in Article 19, they eliminate the family-related requirement and also the affordability restrictions so that people could rent an accessory apartment to whoever they would like, and they could charge market rate rental rates if they would like. We've also included some very specific provisions to make sure that we're maintaining our residential neighborhoods. These include being permitted via special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is how accessory apartments are currently permitted, and they would continue to be permitted that way. And that's a very important thing that we got out of the listening sessions. It was that people really wanted it to be via special permit. What this means is you, as an abutter, would get a notification in the mail and let you know that there's going to be a public hearing, and you can come and provide your comments and your input. We also have a primary residency requirement for the property owner. That means that needs to be their primary residence so that they are present and maintaining their property as well as monitoring their tenant. We have limits on the leases. We want to be ensuring that this is year-round usage, so we need to require a minimum 12 consecutive months for leases, and we cannot have the owner-occupied unit rented out in any way. So you can rent out your accessory apartment, but you cannot rent out the home that you're staying in. We're not in a situation where we want to have an Airbnb and a rental on the same property. Parking is often a problem here in Yarmouth, so we have some very specific requirements with regard to having 2 new on-site parking spaces that need to be provided for the accessory apartment. And you cannot locate them in your front lawn. We don't want people parking just anywhere. And we also have some screening requirements to make sure that you're not creating a problem for your neighbor. We also have some stormwater runoff requirements. So if you're adding an addition or new parking, you need to be sure that the stormwater runoff stays on your property and is being addressed on your property. If you have any additions or new buildings that are being constructed, we want to make sure that you're meeting our current zoning bylaw setbacks. That means how close can those buildings be to your property line. We've also set maximum and minimum unit sizes. The current bylaw has a flat rate maximum of 800 square feet, but we're trying to keep the accessory apartments accessory, so we've tied that to the size of the existing home on the property. So for a studio and a 1-bedroom, it would be 50% of the habitable floor area of that main home, or 800 square feet, whichever is smaller. For 2 bedrooms, again, it would be the 50% of the habitable floor area, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. But we've also set a minimum unit size because we want to make sure that we're creating a livable and functional living space, so we've set a minimum of 350 square feet. Accessory apartments can't have more than 2 bedrooms at any time. We've also looked at setting minimum lot sizes. We've retained the current minimum of 10,000 square feet for studio and 1-bedroom apartments, but we are now requiring 15,000 square feet if you want to have a 2-bedroom accessory apartment. We also have different guidelines and guidance with regard to the appearance and design of the accessory apartment to make sure that it blends in with the neighborhood. We set the limits to the apartments to having 1 accessory apartment per eligible residential lot, so you can't have multiple on your lot, you can only have 1. You also can't separate ownership of the apartment, so we're not trying to create condominiums or duplexes. It all needs to be owned by the same person. We've also set various regulatory requirements, such as setting parameters for inspections, enforcement, rental registration, and also affidavits, so that we're keeping track of these accessory apartments. And then there's also some provisions that have been included in there on how to address existing family-related and affordable units, and they can continue on as they are, or they might want to transfer over. And we also have requirements for transferring of the rights of the accessory apartment upon sale of the property. So we're not anticipating that we're going to be having a deluge of accessory apartments all of a sudden, but this could just be one little piece of the pie to help solve our housing crunch in the town of Yarmouth and create some additional rental units, which we very much need. I hope everyone will vote for this article. Thank you.
And with the accessory apartments bylaw successfully behind us, we have one additional zoning amendment, and that is for signs. And those are primarily geared towards municipal signs on town property, and it points to, rather than having the approval of those in the zoning code, that they would be under Board of Selectmen regulations. And that's something that the Planning Board has worked together with the Board of Selectmen on, and we hope to see that change in. Before you know it, you're through 20 articles. I hope very much that this session has been helpful to you. If nothing else, I hope what it does is it gets you to go to the town's website, pull up that town meeting warrant, go through the individual details of each article just to familiarize yourself a little more with that. And I hope to see you at the town meeting. And remember, Madikey School is closed. Don't go there. We're going to be at the brand new intermediate middle school, which is located at 286 Station Avenue, South Yarmouth. See you there. Thank you very much.